Hello, everyone, and we'll start with some moments of silence. Today, my invitation is to just invite people to use Psalm 46, a psalm that is very familiar to many Christians and people of Jewish origins, but maybe others have heard of it too. Be still and know I am God. So the invitation today is to feel free to replace the word be still with whatever that resonates with you today, whether it's rest and know I am God, whether it's play and know I am God, whether it's chill and know I'm God. So in this moment of silence, just listen and be aware of the word that resonates most deeply for each of us today. Peace. What was the word for you, Wendy? For myself, it was just peace, be at peace, and know I am God.
It was no word for me. It was presence. It was just being in the space.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you would like to introduce yourself first, and then I'll go next.
Sure. Okay. My name is Wendy Bernstein Lash, and I'm a spiritual director. My faith tradition is Jewish, although I companion people and supervise people in all different traditions and with no tradition. I have worked in training spiritual directors, as well as obviously being in spiritual direction and supervising for the, past 15 years or so. And I live in California, and was delightful to connect with Nita at a Spiritual Directors International Conference. I don't know how many years ago, but we've maintained the connection since then.
Thank you. And I am Nita Nishama. I work as a spiritual director, but I think interestingly, in the last 2 days, it feels like rather than to use the term spiritual director, it feels like I feel more invited to use the term not just a listener, but intuitive listener as I accompany people and train others to use their gifts, the gifts that they already have, to intuitively listen to others as well. So I train people not in the traditional model. I believe in just integrating the gifts that they have right now. For example, an artist may listen through her art as she accompanies someone else. And another trainee of mine is a special needs teacher, and she listens to her students with special needs, their family members, such as parents and siblings. I wanted to take this opportunity to just share what I meant by listening through art. So this is something that my trainee did that I just think is so amazing that I want to share. And I've worked in North America, Europe, and Asia. And I continue to travel to all these places. So thank you and welcome. So yeah, Wendy, maybe you could talk about, firstly, what attracted you to do the spiritual exercises in the first place?
It's a good question. So having heard about the spiritual exercises for many years from other Christian and mostly Catholic spiritual directors, at some point I thought, I really need to try to understand this. In fact, someone I know had done a thesis, a dissertation on transforming the spiritual exercises into something Jewish, but didn't quite resonate with me. And I thought, I feel like I want to try it out in a semi-traditional with some fluidity and flexibility. And since people have been doing this for hundreds and hundreds of years, there's obviously something to it. And even though it's not part of my tradition, how might I find some kind of, find something in it? Because as someone that is all Jewish and has a strong Jewish practice, but I also am spiritually eclectic. I meditate in a couple of Buddhist sanghas, and I go on meditation retreats, and I feel like I am very comfortable in Christian settings as well. That why not explore it, but in a place that felt safe. And one, since I knew you, Nita, and I knew that you were very interspiritual, it seemed like it would be a ripe opportunity, and more than I knew.
Perhaps we can share, especially if people who watch this later on don't know what we mean by interspiritual, right? Perhaps we can share from each of our own perspective too, that what interspiritual means to each of us. I believe in walking the talk. Action speaks louder than words. So for me, interspiritual is about not just respecting the different faith traditions or different spiritual traditions, if not, even in a non-religious context. I believe that interspiritual is saying that we are open to allow the many teachers who come into our life to help us grow, that they are each different ladders, different tools to help us deepen, go higher, and enrich and enrich our spiritual life, but most importantly, to help us come home to our true selves. And it's not merely just a relationship with self, but relationship with, the divine, the universe, whatever name that people use. So interspiritual for me is really a practice that, exactly like you said, right, to do Buddhist Sangha as well as your Jewish practices, and just kind of mix them all up and enrich our lives because of the variety, the diversity that is out there.
So for me, when I think about interspiritual, my own definition, I don't know if there's a classic one or not. I feel like it's actually so relevant to the times that we're in, that so few people actually identify strongly with a particular faith tradition that was theirs, passed down in their heritage, and that they want to maintain only that. And that the majority of people that I find in my life, in my work, are people that are spiritual seekers and willing to explore and engage with all spiritual traditions in order to become the best person that they can be, in order to speak, let their soul be animated more, that, what having only the brown shoes doesn't work anymore, that we're in a time of such cross-pollination that it's just natural that people say, yes, I have something that feels very comfortable for me. It's either what I was raised with or what I grew up with, but I'm also very comfortable exploring and mining the wisdom of spiritual practices and teachings of other traditions to make me, make my Judaism even stronger by doing Buddhist meditation, or going to a mass service and then seeing where it's speaking to me, that it's kind of a embodied, and it's a real embodied exploration of discovering. And when you find something new, and you bring it back, to integrate it for me, the practice. I had a little bit of an internet hiccup there. I hope you're still getting me. I'm good.
I think that we lost your last sentence. That's it.
Oh,
so if you just repeat that last sentence,
where I said it makes it more juicy.
Yes, that's like, we shouldn't miss that out. So I think we left the whole chunk of the last sentence. So yeah, so just the last bit of what you were saying before you say when it makes it more juicy.
Yeah, well, I guess it enlivens it by. One of my teachers was Rabbi Ellen Liu, who wrote a couple of books on being Jewish and being a rabbi and having a very strong Buddhist meditation practice. And he said that, it just opened up his traditional Jewish prayer practice after he learned how to meditate. And I feel like these are openers for us instead of the way we've always felt of them as walls. This wall is between you and me. That's your practice. This is my practice. That's your tradition. That's my tradition. That these are actually openers, doors, and windows, that as we flow and we move between the different traditions and letting people kind of find their unique way of engaging with all of it, that it's enriching for everybody. But at least for me, I can speak for myself.
Yeah, everything that you said resonates strongly with this image that I've been holding at least for the past few months, really, of just, I guess the ecology, but the just this image of an organic forest where cross-pollination is just natural, where everything that, the diversity that is in the forest influences, affects, enriches the other species that are in this environment as well, very, very organically, and very, it's like I said, that organic forest where it's not the plant thing, it's not like a zoo, it's not cage up, it's not the modern day agricultural farms or plantations where trees are in rows, whereas this is it's just wow, right? Juicy.
Yeah,
and wow.
I love that word organic, because we are organic, and we're made of organic material, and our spirit is organic, and kind of sticking people in institutional settings and saying you're this, you're that, you're not of this, you're not of that, it's not organic. It's not. So Organic spirituality. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, so, what were some of the challenges that you faced as you journeyed through these exercises?
Well, there were personal challenges for me of carving out the space, which I don't think has anything to do with, being Jewish or not. And I did them at home. And so, how much could I really immerse myself in the spiritual exercises and versus, cleaning up, which I ended up doing. And it was actually very healing practice to kind of clean up some areas in my, because, you can't pray and meditate all day long. But there were also the challenges of really diving into and reading some of the Christian scriptures that I really had not spent any time with. A couple of pieces I had maybe read before, but reading them in this kind of depth and with a focused question, I found myself reacting to them in a way that I don't react to Hebrew scriptures now because I've read them so many times. So I've read the Hebrew Bible through, there's a cycle of reading the Hebrew Bible through every year, and I've been doing that for many, many years. And there are challenging passages in the Hebrew Bible, but I'm like, yeah, fine. I've read that before, and I've interpreted it this way so that it's not so challenging. But running up against the Christian Bible passages where I had never read them before, I was having my initial reaction to them, like, how can you say this to your mother, Jesus? This is very rude. And so my initial reaction would kind of push me away, and then I would have to keep inviting myself, there's something here for you. Why are you having such a strong reaction? And so although it was challenging, it actually was engaging because it wasn't just, oh, I've read this passage before, I know what this means. So in that way, the challenge also could be a benefit. But I did find sometimes the languaging, which thank goodness you were my director during all of this, and the language was mine to let go of, and the passage was mine to let go of. So I would read a passage, and if I just didn't feel like it spoke to me, I'd actually keep reading, or I'd go back and I'd find something else or a word or a phrase that jumped out at me. So that was both the challenge and the gift. And I think those are probably the big things that stand out for me. And I didn't find it challenging to do it at a distance with you. It was really, it was nice to have a lot of quiet time in a place that was my own, and that knowing that if I was really struggling with something, the next day you and I would talk, and I could, and you would invite me to talk about what was challenging.
Thank you, Wendy. And for myself, there were really no such, challenges in the sense. I just love doing the whole thing with you, and I love being, every time that I would adapt something for you from the traditional text, there were times that I myself am blown away because, because with creative new ways of looking at the text or the context, just changing words here and there and changing the language and staying true to the intentions, staying true to the original intentions of the exercises. That was just really wonderful for me. So before I talk about, all the other gifts that I felt I received, what about yourself? What were the gifts that you received?
Well, I was really quite amazingly surprised at how there was kind of some challenges going on in my personal life that I hadn't really thought about. And they were lining up with some of the passages that I was being given, like, what is the cross that you bear? And I'm like, really? And then bam, like a few hours later, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my cross that I'm bearing. This emotional turmoil that's happening in my life, this is it. And how can I, I'm giving myself this space to just enter it and to acknowledge it and to cry over the, like what I felt like I was carrying, this cross that I was carrying, or, in the sense of love, I got out of it because love was one of those beautiful words that you invited me to put in the place of Jesus or in the place of God. And an understanding of love completely different. Not that I disregard everything else that I know about love, but an additional understanding of love, because I was looking at this, a particular day's or a particular week's intention and recognizing what was going on in my life. So how could I bring love into this? Oh, love is not just this outpouring of compassion and for people, but love is also constricting. And love is, I just had the word opened up for me, and in amazing ways. And I was really grateful that, I think it's always like this when I go on a meditation retreat, a silent retreat, and I think, oh, I don't know what, I'm okay, whatever. You're in the middle of it, and things that you need to pay attention to show up. And so I was not really paying attention to what was ruminating and churning inside of me in response to what was happening out in my life. And so it was an opportunity to process it, be with it, and to process it with you as well.
Yeah, I remember a phrase that really, resonated with you, and it stayed with me too, was just the line, forgiveness is love. And and this bigger agape type of love, right? That doesn't mean that we have to love the person personally. It's just saying that, it is that more wider, embracing, more inclusive love of us and of others. The phrase that came to me throughout the exercises with you was crazy synchronized. Like, it was so crazily synchronized that, even as you spoke about cleaning your house, I was like, really? Like, she starts the first few days with spring cleaning, which in my personal belief, everything is connected, mind, body, and spirit. So before you spring clean spiritually, before you spring clean or detox internally, you spring clean and detox externally. So it was like you were just in the space already, and it felt like that was part of the gift of you being able to do this retreat at home rather than in a retreat center. Like, I don't think it will work so well going around cleaning people's retreat centers, but but hey, maybe
wouldn't be as interesting either.
I know, and you really, really thoroughly clean up a lot of the parts of your house. I remember you were in the garage as well. So that was
getting the schmutz out, right?
Exactly. So it was just so synchronized that that even as you struggled with some of the texts, the intentions, the underlying intentions were always fulfilled. I think is the only word that comes. That somehow that you're wanting to do this, your intention really somehow, it felt like your intention touched the divine, and someone out there, the universe, whatever, is it's helping you to stay on this this invisible schedule that you and I didn't know was going to happen, right? I remember there were moments of, intensity, and I want to acknowledge and honor how ready you were and how willing you were to embrace them, even though they were like whoosh sometimes. The greater challenge, well, the greater gift, really, I think it was just knowing that I really want to bring this spirit of the spiritual exercises out there. And from now on, I'm going to intentionally call it the interspiritual exercises, because it's like, who cares what tradition you come from? If we are human, then there's something about it that will resonate with you. And it doesn't matter if you don't believe in a faith, because it's like, if you can find someone in this world, someone from the past, the present, whom you admire, and whom you can love, that relationship can just change a lot. What comes to mind is this quote that came from an interview with a Jesuit by the name of Pedro Arrupe, that he spoke about falling in love, that what you fall in love with will affect everything. It affects, what makes you wake up in the morning, what you do with your time, with your weekends, and whom you spend it with. And that sense of, when you love something, when you're passionate about something, that's what gets you out of bed, and that's what makes you want to spend time with certain things and with certain people. And that's the spirit of the spiritual exercises. And that very, very strong message throughout the whole thing, right, of being about relationship with self and with divine and with others, that I often come to say, is that balanced tripod that so often we give of ourselves, whether like, for a good cause. I always say, this do-gooder mentalities really can be harmful to people, right? Because you give of yourself so much, whether it's for a cause, it's for work, or your loved ones. Like, in today's modern world, more people spend time in their workplace than they do even in their homes. Or, people see their co-workers more than they see their kids, their family members. And this has become the norm of modern life. And I'm not saying that it's bad, but I'm saying that how do we balance that? But, before we even say, okay, I need to make sure that I have balanced time for work and for family, but also how do we have balanced time with just myself, just me time, rather than even just saying quality time. Like, can I have a date with myself, and then just say, for example, putting it in your appointment book to say, okay, appointment with self, and not telling others, simply just letting people know, I'm so sorry, I'm not available at this time because I've got an appointment. You don't have to tell people it's an appointment with self, right? I think that's also that greater invitation of doing this retreat in your daily life at home, because it's challenging. It's so easy to just put everything away and go away to a retreat center. This grounds your practices, I feel, and this roots it in your home base. So yeah, I think those were some of the gifts that everything that, even though if I say you, but I see as, every gift that you receive is also mine and vice versa. So yeah, as long as people are interested, I believe in just sharing, what I think. I see this interspiritual exercises as a miracle making tool, is what I call it. It's not like a magic wand, but it's just acknowledging that, miracles happen every day. Are we simply aware enough to become aware of them? Are we mindful enough to acknowledge and be grateful for the miracles that do come to us, and are we open-hearted, not just open arms, right? Open-hearted enough to say, yes, I am able to receive this gift. I think essentially that's what the interspiritual exercises is for me. And so sharing them with you was, I guess I went in with no expectations, but if I had expectations, you have blown them all away. So, so that's what it was like for me.
Well, I had no expectations since I had never done them before. So, and what was interesting is when I go away on a silent retreat, you know, I tell everybody I'm away on a silent retreat and they can't get a hold of me anyways, and there's no phone coverage and all of that. So I told everybody I'm going away on a silent retreat. You know, my husband knew I wasn't because I was here, and you know, but most everybody knew that I was off the grid. And but it was different because I was here in my house, and it was different because there was you know, there was an intentionality about praying and journaling, and so, but you know, it's what I needed, but I didn't know that I needed it. I really needed to do a retreat at home, and that's all I could do anyways. I wasn't gonna join you in Kuala Lumpur, but it really was, it kind of gave my home a different quality during the time of the exercises, which was over, you know, quite an extended period of time, because we had that first intense week, and then we had the intervening weeks, and then we had the final closing week. I felt some sanctuary space in my home because I was doing an intentional spiritual practice that was different for me here. So that was, I guess, also a benefit that I didn't describe, but I'm thinking about it now. So.
Part of the gift, I think it's because, you know, it's not just intense, right? As you say, you know, that concentrated week at the beginning, and then concentrated week at the end, and then the intertwining weeks. And at the end of the day, it comes up to 30 days of retreat days. And you know, whether you're doing it as consecutive 30 days or over a period of time, I just believe that, you know, that when we're willing to commit 30 days of our lives, and even if people do it over, say, 2 years, transformation happens. So if people came and told me that, oh, I did the spiritual exercises, oh, it was okay, I have to admit that I would feel like this person didn't really do it. I would feel like, really, it was just okay. Like, what didn't resonate, or, you know, because it should be something that's so personalized, so customized, that if it was just okay, at some point someone should have asked the question. Someone, whether it's the retreatant or the spiritual director, should have asked the question like, oh, so if it's merely okay, why was it so? Is there, because, you know, life is great, everything is amazing, that's great, then okay is good. But was it also because, you know, there were resistance to stuff, and there were times that, you know, maybe it's just being honest to ourselves and saying that I wasn't ready. So I felt like it was a gift for me because none of these applied to you. I felt like you were really open, and you were really willing to dive in, even if, like, all of a sudden you found like, oh my God, this is a real deep, huge ocean. Like, okay, I'm gonna hold my breath and dive in, was the sense that I sometimes get from you, right? So, but yeah, that sense of, so yeah, to me, it's a miracle making tool, because I always just see transformation when people dive in. So what were the transformations for yourself then? So from before you did it to after, what were the transformations?
I just want to go back because I want to underscore that I think the reason I got the most out of it is that you said to me, it really doesn't matter what you do so long as you're honest. And so when I started feeling my resistance to doing things or particular readings, if I had tried to gloss over that, I would have gotten okayness out of it. But because I could share it with you and say, I'm really challenged by this passage, or this is not working for me. I think there was one point I said to you, I'm not sure if I should continue this. It's not working for me. But because I could be honest with you, then the breakthrough could happen, that I didn't have to look pretty. I didn't have to look any particular way, like, oh, I'm dutifully following it and aren't I happy? Like I was not happy. I was like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? This is so hard. And then that's where the breakthroughs happened, was I stayed with my resistance. I stayed with the difficulty and I stayed with the challenges. So I think transformation for me is about 90% that. Sometimes there's a graceful transformation that happens. It's like, thank you. But most of the time it feels like I'm like taking a Band-Aid and ripping it off the wound so that it'll heal. That it is challenging because I'm holding on to something that I don't even realize is stopping me in my growth and my spiritual development, and that I need to be challenged and I need to have that angst in order to really let go of something and feel the transformative energy of some spiritual practice and some spiritual path. So I didn't really answer the question that you asked, but that's the one I felt like answering.
You did. You absolutely did, because it's exactly what you said, that, that there were, during the times when those questions came up about how, maybe we should just discontinue this, it was, for me, from a listener's point of view, knowing that stuff were happening for you, whether we call it synchronized or not, that it took a lot of courage to face deep wounds. It took a lot of courage to face present wounds, and to be willing to say, okay, it's the wounds here now, like what do we do with it? But also the willingness of saying, okay, I can't do anything about it, like I'm just gonna put here, and trust that whether God, someone out there, heals it, or it's organically heals. That as you became courageous to expose the wound to fresh air and sunshine, it healed, whether we call it organically or not, right? And those were the moments that I knew that somehow there was this invitation to continue rather than discontinue. So yes, you absolutely, hit it on the nail with your answer. And I remember for myself too, and maybe because my own experience with the spiritual exercises were not exactly smooth sailing, I painted a batik for the whole thing, and this was years later, and the image that I painted was on the one side an onion, and just imagine if this onion was violently ripped apart into pieces, right? But what the exercises, or what time organically did for me, was that sense of, I was the onion, and every piece of me, even if it was ripped apart, nothing was ever wasted. That every little piece of that 1,000 pieces of onion transformed into rose petals. And from the scattered, fragmented petals, they kind of gathered together, and when they got back together, they didn't become this onion anymore, but they got back together and formed first a rosebud that had the chance to grow and to bloom and to smell good. That sense of, if you rip an onion apart, that will be so much, just the pungentness of the smell and the tears that will flow, right? Versus rose that, in my opinion, a rose also represents contemplative life, in the sense that you don't have to do anymore. You just be like a rose can just stand up and walk away. But by daring to just bloom from that bud, you attract people to you. Yeah, I think because I had those onion experiences. That sense of knowing that, yeah, it's okay even if it's painful. Honesty, courage, and most importantly, that sense of what you said about love, that love that we see that is all encompassing, makes it in a nice way of okayness. Anything else that you would love to add to our sharing today?
Can't think of anything. You?
No. And so maybe it is a good time to go into the wordlessness. And perhaps I'll ask you to just invite you to close our session today with a chant that you like.
I didn't know what chant I was going to do. I knew I was going to do a chant, and then I didn't know how you were going to open. So there's a chant that actually goes with that song that a woman in one of the training programs that I ran, she wrote this. So it's based on the line, "Be still and know that I am." Be still and know that I am. 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 Thank you, Amy Grossblatt Pesach, for that lovely chant. And Nita, to you and everyone out there.
Thank you.
Who might be invited to try the interspiritual exercises.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, everyone who watched this. Bye for now.
Bye.